All right, YouTube. So I've been going so deep down the FTX rabbit hole. And when I say this thing gets so deep and it's so contagious that this is going to be unlike anything that we've ever seen, I want to just talk about what we should be looking for here. Anybody that claims they are bailing anybody out, and this means raising capital, bailing anybody out. Every single project we look at is somehow connected to this web of FTX bad doings. All of these multi-chain capital, multi-coin capital, Jim capital, capital June, LWC capital, RWA capital, next week capital, last week capital, tomorrow capital, Pioneer capital, inside outside capital, upside down, pineapple side down cake capital, right? All of these capitals that have all been borrowing money and raising capital because they've been taking loans out against their assets. This is so screwed, and this is so deep, and there's so many connections here to dot these T's and cross these I's. Ready? Let's get it. So if we start looking at this, what I'm seeing, and nothing, I'm just going to let you guys cross the T's and dot the I's. So Digital Currency Group acquires CoinDesk in 2016. Then they acquire Genesis, or somehow Genesis is connected to Digital Currency Group. Then we have Grayscale, which Digital Currency Group was buying billions of dollars worth of Grayscale. Crypto investment firm DCG gives $140 million equity infusion to trading firm Genesis. I swear it's like this contagion that's so deep that people are trying to bail things out just to prevent the cascading landslide. Like if you actually go through here and look at all the assets that Digital Currency Group has acquired, Foundry, Grayscale, Gemini, FTX, and now they're somehow coming up with more money. It seems like everything that they've invested in seems to be in some way connected to FTX. And then if you look at this flywheel and you talk about projects like ApeCoin, and I don't know anything about ApeCoin except for the fact that it was being investigated by the SEC. Why? Dude, this thing looks so sketch. So somehow, because Andreessen Horowitz decided to invest in ApeCoin, and that gave it a 400 something or a $5 billion evaluation. So you just do a little bit of research and you're like, the main company behind Bored Ape Yacht Club is Yuga Labs, a traditional corporate entity registered in Delaware. It's reportedly in talks with the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz about funding that would value it at $5 billion. And it has recently made moves to become effectively the first major NFT monopoly, according to CoinDesk, which is owned by Digital Currency Group. And then if you take a look at FTX Lend and how FTX lending worked, so it seems like these coins are getting valued because these big VCs or corporate hedge funds were investing in them. So all of a sudden, now ApeCoin launched and it hit a $7 billion market cap. So because it was able to be, I guess, staked over here, any of the VCs could take their ApeCoin, they could come take it over to FTX. They could stake it on FTX, which just created like this giant flywheel. So any of these, what I think to be shady, unregistered securities that launched, they were taking them right over to FTX. And this is how FTX was generating this mountain of wealth of assets. Like every one of these coins that launched on FTX and just pumped up by these VCs and market makers and all of these crypto hedge funds that were backing them, they were able to take them and immediately stake them over on FTX and then borrow against those assets, which was then in theory giving Sam Bankman-Fried more money to manipulate because he was taking everybody's assets that were bringing them over to FTX and he was using them to trade against the market. When I say that this is so deep, if you just start looking at anybody who's going to start bailing anybody out, like the big one is why CZ bailing out Voyager? Which one's CZ bailing out? Let's take a look. See, this is what just doesn't add up at all. Binance to relaunch a bid for bankrupt Voyager, right? FTX chaos causes Binance to relaunch bid. The move to Binance US, the operating annex of the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, to acquire Voyager started again after Voyager reopened the auction process as FTX.US, the former bid winner, became insolvent and declared bankruptcy. So we have this interview right here where Sam Bankman-Fried's legit like, Voyager, yeah, we're probably never getting that 70 million back, right? So known Ponzi scheme. Nobody wanted to bail it out. Why would you bail out an absolute guaranteed loss? Even FTX said it was going to be a guaranteed loss.
Yeah, the Michael Jordan of crypto, if you will. Sam Bankman-Fried has really played a key role in the crypto industries. Just the role in the industry this year in general, Andrew, he spent hundreds of millions of dollars to bail out struggling companies facing bankruptcy and liquidity issues, you name it. The CEO, though, lives a relatively understated life for a billionaire. He drives a Toyota Corolla, sometimes sleeps under his desk on a beanbag chair as well. I sat down with Bankman-Fried outside of FTX's headquarters to talk about his role as the industry's lender of last resort.
What we basically came to believe was the following. The first was that, if possible, it would be extremely valuable to the ecosystem to backstop some of these places. First of all, just backstopping customers and making sure they're protected. But second of all, stopping contagion from spreading through the ecosystem, right? Stopping it from being the case that anyone who transitively did business with any chain of people who did business with one of the troubled assets themselves became troubled. Call and wire money. I think the Voyager case is sort of an interesting one there. What we ended up doing was extending a sort of two-piece line of credit. And the first was 70 million. And that 70 million was money they could just draw on immediately, no strings attached. And we knew we might lose that. Then there's a larger line of credit, which would eventually have potentially plugged our best guess at the time as to what the complete hole was. But which had conditions on it. If there's just an immediate run on the bank here and the business is just going belly up and there's nothing we can do to actually save this, like we don't want to just keep roaring through it. We very well may lose that 70 million. I don't know if we're seeing it again. And so be it. Like we understood that risk going in.
Do you still have enough cash if you needed to do another bailout?
Yeah, we did. And we try to keep that on hand. Like we try not to empty the coffer, so to speak.
Right? So all these projects are getting bailed out right now to stop this cascading landslide. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, guys. Really, it's so scary. I mean, I don't know how dark it's going to get, but it's going to get dark. Or where's this puck going to stop? I mean, you're talking about Paradigm, Jump Capital, Cretus One. Like, you start looking into Paradigm and then what Paradigm owns, and then you start looking into Jump Capital and who Jump Capital was started by, and then who all these little capital projects are. Digital Currency Group, Gemini, BitVow. Like, what is BitVo? And we haven't even got into the Solana and FTX founder and how he's connected to Sam Bankman-Fried and talking about Kevin O'Leary, which then goes into Circle CEO and USDC and the Star Atlas. I mean, it's like Star Atlas game is scrubbed off the internet. And then you start getting into who is this Anthony Scaramucci and Salt. Oh, okay. So Anthony Scaramucci, and check this guy out, right? So here's this guy, this Anthony Scaramucci guy, right? And you see him over here masquerading around in conversations with Anthony Scaramucci, right? This is the guy from Salt. So let me show you what kind of dude this is. So here's Circle. See Salt FTX. So this is the guy from Circle. Right next to him, we have Kevin O'Leary, right? So you have Anthony Scaramucci. You have the guy from Circle, USDC. And then you have Kevin O'Leary. So people are all freaking out about USDT, and I think you guys are totally looking at this from the wrong angle. So if we take a look, California finance regulator moves to suspend crypto lender Salt license. Salt announced on Tuesday it was pausing customers' withdrawals due to the impact of FTX collapse. So this guy created SkyBridge, and if you wonder what SkyBridge is, dude, it's invested in MoonPay, FTX, Genesis Digital Assets, Helium, FTX US. I mean, Ponzi scheme. What? And then, so you check out who is this dude, right? Scaramucci worked at Goldman Sachs Investment Banking Equities and Private Wealth Management Division between 1989 and 1996. After leaving Goldman Sachs, he founded Oscar Capital Management. And in 2005, he funded the investment firm SkyBridge Capital. On July 21st of 2017, Scaramucci was appointed White House Communication Director. Days into the job, Scaramucci provoked controversy after launching a strongly worded attack on members of the Trump administration in an interview with the New Yorker, Ryan Leza, that he believed was off the record. 10 days after his appointment, he was dismissed by the new White House Chief of Staff, John F. Kelly, at the recommendation of President Donald Trump. He has since been critical of Trump in the media and voiced his support for Joe Biden in the 2020 election. So here's another person that's involved with who knows what. But what he's done with these businesses over here, I think this guy needs to be investigated at the highest level. And we see that California finance regulators moved to suspend crypto lenders' SALT license, right? So to launch SkyBridge Bitcoin Fund LP, SkyBridge and its affiliates have invested $25.3 million. SkyBridge is among the most well-established financial institutions to launch a Bitcoin product, offering a secure and easy way to buy and sell Bitcoin. Fidelity will serve as custodian, and ERNST and Young will audit the funds. So guys, how deep does this go? And then here we go again. Check out who we got over here. Here's another one of those weird conferences with all these social elites. Guy from Circle, Anatoly Yakovenko from Solana, Kevin O'Leary, Jeremy Allery from Circle, the CEO of Circle. I mean, there's just no way. And then don't even get me started on the fact that Sam, the co-CEO of Alameda Research, used to work for the New York Times. So when people are talking about the New York Times puff piece and why FTX has been getting a slap on the wrist, well, this dude used to make crossword puzzles and then somehow went from making crossword puzzles at the New York Times to being a pro trader at Alameda and the co-CEO of Alameda Research, right? Then we have talks, don't even get me started on the fact that, so how about Elizabeth Warren, right? Elizabeth Warren, who's been so critical on crypto, she's gonna get crypto regulated. Well, guess what? Sam Bankman-Fried has ties to the Democratic Party directly through Elizabeth Warren because Sam Bankman-Fried's dad, Joe Bankman-Fried, according to Shay, Bankman-Fried's father, Joe Bankman, endorsed a tax bill introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren in April of 2016. His mother, Barbara Fried, is in charge of a political action committee that helps secure Democrat funding from Silicon Valley companies. Shay points out the irony in Warren's response to the FTX collapse, with the Massachusetts senator generalizing that the crypto industry needs more aggressive enforcement and stronger rules, while failing to mention Bankman-Fried's $39 million donation to her political party or for the U.S. midterm elections. So yeah, Joe Bankman-Fried's dad, who's directly connected to Elizabeth Warren, who actually worked with Elizabeth Warren. And then we have one side of the media playing softball over here. We have one side of the media playing hardball and actually going after and asking all these tough questions. But when I say that this is deep and it's connected at the highest level all the way up, there is no questions asked. This is rotten to the core, guys. Rotten to the core. Anybody that is bailing anybody out, I would be questioning. First things first. Any one of these projects who has to raise capital, every one of these crypto hedge funds needs to be showing proof of reserves. It's not just the exchanges that we need to be asking for proof of reserves. Every single crypto hedge fund needs to verify on chain in real time, not a snapshot, that they actually have those assets in their possession. And if they don't, they need to start getting margin called, because now it looks like that these crypto hedge funds have been doing the same thing that SBF was doing. They were just literally writing IOUs saying, hey guys, we got this crypto. We have this in our wallet. Every single big crypto hedge fund, their balances need to be made public, because we obviously cannot trust what's going on in this industry right now. And when I say it's going to get big, guys, it's going to get big. It's going to cascading landslide. How deep? And the sad part is it doesn't look like FTX was the only one running the rinky-dinky borrowing and lending protocol. It seems like every one of these exchanges has this borrowing thing going on where you can actually borrow against your assets. You can have collateralized and stake your assets on their exchange. You can borrow against them. Any exchange that was doing the borrowing, I would be seriously questioning how many assets they have, what they borrowed, what they let these big hedge funds take out loans against. I mean, this shit's crazy, guys. So be careful out there. I don't even think I'm going to edit this thing. I'm just going to throw it right up. Oh, and P.S. Nothing stated in this video is a fact. Everything I just said, we don't know who's guilty. We don't know who's innocent. We don't know what's misinformation. We don't know what's not misinformation. But I know that we cannot trust anything that any crypto hedge fund says. We cannot trust anything that any exchange says. We cannot trust anything that any one of the crypto media outlets says, because they are owned by the crypto hedge funds. It's screwy, guys. It's so screwy. Every one of these players needs to show full proof of reserves before we go anywhere. Where did that money come from? How did they get their initial capital? Where is every cent gone? Every transaction that they've ever spent when they move money around? I mean, this is going to have to get investigated at the highest level, because if we don't get these corrupt individuals out of the system now, they've lost their right to play at the table. They don't get to make it back up. They were all in, if they were caught or involved in this, they got to go. So until we get these guys cleaned out of here until we actually get to the bottom of this, until every one of these global trading reserve investment backing digital currency groups. I don't know, guys. It's goofy, man. Love you guys.